Have you ever sat in a quiet room, maybe with a drink in your hand, finally enjoying the silence you've worked 40 years to earn, only to feel a sudden creeping anxiety, that quiet voice whispering that you should be sharing this with someone, that you're running out of time? It's the silent epidemic among men over 50. It is the rush into relationships not because of desire, but because of a deep-seated fear of solitude. It's that quiet panic no one talks about, especially men in this age group who are raised to be stoic, but often confuse stoicism with suppression. Before we go any further, hit the like button. It helps the channel reach more men who are standing at this exact crossroads and need to hear this message. And I want you to be honest with me in the comments right now. Do you think men over 50 seek relationships for love, or do they seek them to avoid facing themselves? Tell me why. Now, let's get into today's topic. And yes, it is a bold one. It might trigger some people, but we deal in truth here. Not comfort. We are discussing 5 reasons to avoid having a serious girlfriend after 50 and 60, seen through the rigorous lens of modern stoicism. Before you assume this is about bitterness, misogyny, or isolation, let me make something crystal clear. This is about strength, it's about mental clarity, it's about emotional sovereignty, it's about recognizing the specific traps older men fall into in the modern dating market. The traps that quietly drain their retirement accounts, disrupt their hard-earned peace, and blur their masculinity just when it should be at its peak. Let's start with a foundational truth. The enemy in this story isn't women. Women are acting according to their nature and their needs. The enemy is attachment without awareness. It's the habit men over 50 have of dropping their boundaries they held firm in business for decades simply because they feel grateful for a little female attention. It's the craving for validation after a grey divorce, after the kids have left, or after years of feeling invisible in a youth-obsessed culture. It's the mistaken belief that a girlfriend will fill a gap in your life that only discipline, purpose, and self-respect can fix. Marcus Aurelius, great Stoic emperor, taught us a lesson that is essential for every man over 50. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength applying this to dating. A girlfriend is an outside event. She is a variable you cannot control. Your peace is your mind. Never trade the one thing you control for the one thing you cannot. So, let's break down the 5 reasons deeply. These apply to most men in the US, UK, Canada, or Australia who enter their 50s and 60s and suddenly think, maybe it's time to settle down again. Reason number 1, most women your age aren't really seeking love in the way you define it. They are seeking stability. This isn't a criticism. It is an evolutionary and economic reality. And reality is exactly what Stoicism tells us to face without flinching. When you were 25, dating was about potential. She liked you for who you could become. Now that you are 55 or 65, you are the finished product. You finally have what many younger men are still struggling to build: stability, wisdom, emotional calm, a steady masculine presence, and yes, financial understanding. You have the assets, the home, the pension, the 401k, women, especially those in your age group who may have gone through divorces that left them financially vulnerable. Notice these things right away. But here is the twist that catches so many good men off guard. Most are not drawn to you because of your soul, your jokes, or your philosophy. They are drawn to the safety you provide. Men over 50 often confuse this desire for safety with genuine, burning desire for them. Here is a Stoic truth you must internalize. Attraction based on convenience will collapse the moment the convenience fades or requires sacrifice. Think of it this way. You spend decades building a beautiful house, you maintain the gardens, you fix the roof, and you pay off the mortgage. Suddenly, you have visitors who love the view from your porch. Are they visiting you, or are they visiting the comfort of the porch? Older men are the house more often than they realize. I have coached countless men who were CEOs, engineers, successful tradesmen who entered a relationship thinking, she genuinely likes me for me. But 6 months later, let's look at the ledger. He's paying for all the dinners. He's paying for the vacations. He's handling every repair at her house. He is rearranging his life to fit her needs. And what is he receiving back? Companionship, yes. But is that companionship worth the price of being a utility? In the West, particularly in the US and Europe, there is a phenomenon known as the invisible wallet. You don't just become a boyfriend, you become a lifestyle upgrade. You become the means by which she maintains a standard of living she might not be able to sustain alone. Again, this isn't to say women are malicious, it is practical. But as a man, you must ask, do I want to be loved, or do I want to be needed for my resources? Stoicism teaches us to strip away the varnish and look at things as they really are. If you removed your stability, your resources, and your willingness to pay, would she still be there with the same enthusiasm if the answer is hesitant? You're not in a relationship, you're in a transaction, and transactions disguised as romance are the most expensive things a man can buy. Reason number 2, you will lose your freedom faster than you expect, and the cost is higher now than it ever was. Let's talk about the value of time. When you were 30, you had time to waste. You could spend a weekend arguing, or a year in a bad relationship, and bounce back. You had decades ahead of you. But men in their 50s and 60s are in a different phase. You have reached the summit, you've survived heartbreak, insane work pressure, raising children, family challenges, and perhaps your own health scares. You have earned your peace. You have earned your slow coffee in the morning. You have earned the ability to watch a game, read a book, or work on your project without explaining yourself to anyone. This is the golden hour of a man's life. But the moment you step into a committed, codependent relationship, the dynamic shifts instantly. You exchange your hard-won sovereignty for companionship, and often, the companionship you receive doesn't match the freedom you give up. You start shifting your schedule. I can't go to the gym at 5 p.m. because we have dinner plans. I can't take that solo trip to Italy because she doesn't like flying. I can't watch my show because she wants to talk about her day. You start managing someone else's emotional world and shrinking your life just to keep things calm. Stoicism teaches a powerful lesson. Protect your inner fortress. Your peace cannot be negotiated. Your time is precious, memento mori. Remember that you will die. Your time is limited. Your energy is the resource that shapes the quality of your remaining years. Yet so many older men hand all 3 away within months of getting a girlfriend. Let's look at a concrete example. Consider a man named Robert. Robert retires at 62, finally ready to travel, learn photography, and get back into shape. He meets a woman. She's nice, but she has a dog that can't be left alone, so they can't travel. She doesn't like his diet, so he starts eating what she cooks. He gains weight. She thinks his photography hobby is antisocial, so he does it less. Within 1 year, Robert's retirement looks nothing like his vision. It looks like a continuation of his working life, just with a different boss. His inner fortress was entered not by an army, but by his own weak boundaries and a desire to please. Freedom at 50 plus is not just about doing what you want, it is about not doing what you don't want. It is the freedom from obligation. Relationships, by definition, are a series of obligations. You must calculate, is the return on investment high enough to bankrupt your freedom? Reason number 3, emotional responsibility will shift to you, and it is a heavy burden. This is where most men underestimate the real weight of a relationship at this age. We are not dealing with 25-year-olds who are blank slates. Women, especially after 50, carry deep emotional history, and so do you. But the dynamic often plays out in a specific way. She brings old heartbreak. She brings trauma from a bad marriage that ended 10 years ago. She brings resentment toward an ex-husband. She brings deep worries about her adult children who might be failing to launch. She brings financial fears and health anxiety. Who becomes the container for all this anxiety? You become the emotional anchor. You become the rock. You become the problem solver, the reassurance giver, the therapist, the emotional safety net. Now you might say, but that's what men do. We are strong. Yes, men are strong, but there is a difference between being strong and being a dumping ground. When you take on someone else's emotional world, you sacrifice space in your own. Older men underestimate how much cortisol and mental energy this consumes. At 25, you have the hormonal buffer to handle relationship storms and drama. At 55 or 65, stress kills. Literally. It raises your blood pressure. It disrupts your sleep. It affects your heart. You need that energy for your health, your purpose, or your legacy. The relationship becomes a weight instead of a support. The Stoics say a man must guide his own inner weather. But many older men end up trying to control someone else's storm instead. You find yourself spending hours talking her down from an anxiety attack about her daughter's choices. You spend your evenings listening to complaints about her co-workers. And when you constantly manage another person's emotional chaos, you slowly lose yourself. You stop noticing your own needs. You stop putting your well-being first. You stop chasing your goals because you're too tired from handling the relationship. You trade self-mastery for emotional babysitting. And the scary part is that it happens quietly. You think you are being a good man, but actually, you are being used as an emotional crutch. A woman who hasn't healed her past will use you to bandage her wounds. And once those wounds are covered, she may not even need you anymore. Reason number 4. Relationships after 50 often push you into a caretaking role faster than you can imagine. Here is a statistical truth that is uncomfortable to discuss, but necessary. In many cases, men in their 50s and 60s who have maintained their health are physically more robust than their female counterparts who may be dealing with hormonal shifts, autoimmune issues, or the cumulative effects of stress. Many men in this age bracket won't say it aloud, but a girlfriend at this age often becomes another responsibility. Not a partner, not always, but often enough that you must pay attention. Women over 50 face real challenges, mobility issues, chronic fatigue, family crises involving aging parents or grandchildren. Who becomes the default support system? You. Why? Because you are calm, because you are logical, because you are better under pressure, and because you are there. Stoicism warns against taking on burdens that do not belong to you. Do not let the future disturb you, Aurelius said. But in these relationships, you inherit a future of caretaking. You start compromising your habits. You cancel your gym session to drive her to appointments. You skip your meditation to help her move furniture for her daughter. You become the driver, the planner, the emergency contact, the emotional stabilizer. You entered the relationship looking for fun, for travel, for intimacy. Suddenly, you are a nurse with a purse. Let me show you a scenario I've seen many times in the US. A man in his 60s meets a woman who seems fun, warm, and easygoing. They date for 6 months, then her health takes a dip. Or her mother gets sick. Because they are together, he feels the moral obligation to step in. He spends his first years of retirement in hospital waiting rooms, not on a beach in Thailand. He spends his money on her emergencies, not his investments. It is noble to help. But did you sign up for this? When you take on roles you never asked for, you slowly lose the man it took you decades to become. You end up responsible for a life that isn't yours. And once that pattern begins, it is almost impossible to reverse without looking like the bad guy. Reason number 5, and this is possibly the most critical loss: you risk losing the prime of your masculine rebirth. There is a myth that a man's prime is his 20s. That is physically true for athletes, but for the complete man, the man of mind, spirit, and resources, the prime is often between 50 and 70. This is your renaissance, your second mountain. Your testosterone may not be what it was at 30, but your masculine presence is sharper than ever. You are wiser, you are less reactive, you are confident in silence. You know what truly matters. You have the resources to execute ideas you only dreamed of when you were young. This is the time for your magnum opus. Maybe it's writing a book, maybe it's starting a consultancy, maybe it's mentoring younger men, maybe it's mastering a martial art or a new language, maybe it's deepening your spiritual practice. But the moment you attach yourself to a girlfriend, especially one who does not match your lifestyle, your peace, or your pace, you risk losing that rebirth completely. Why? Because relationships naturally require compromise. And at this stage, compromise is the enemy of excellence. You've worked your entire life to reach this point. Your mornings are finally yours. Your finances are steadier. But once you commit, the following almost always happens. You start putting her needs above your mission. You adjust your habits to avoid conflict. You limit your deep work time to be available. You hide your true desires just to maintain domestic peace. You reduce your world to fit the relationship. Your renaissance becomes a hobby. Your mission becomes a side project. Stoicism teaches that purpose must be the center of a man's life. Not romance, not approval, not companionship, purpose. Yet, many men over 50 become so excited by a woman's attention that they push their purpose aside without noticing. A relationship can add warmth to your life, but it can also dull the fire you've worked decades to light. The cost isn't just emotional, it's spiritual. It's the cost of becoming a smaller man to keep someone else comfortable, and you must ask yourself, is that a price worth paying? Do you want to be remembered as a good boyfriend, or as a man who left a mark on the world? Now, I can hear the comments already, so are you saying we should die alone? Are you saying we should become hermits? Absolutely not. That is binary thinking, and Stoicism is about nuance. The message is not to avoid women. It is not to avoid connection. It is to avoid entanglement that weakens you. It is to avoid entering a relationship from a place of weakness, loneliness, or fear. The Stoic man chooses. He does not cling, he does not chase, he does not beg, he evaluates. So, what should a man over 50 or 60 do instead? If you still desire feminine energy in your life, which is natural and healthy, how do you navigate this minefield? Here is the blueprint, simple, strong, and honest. First, prioritize. Purpose. Over person, or your mission, is the backbone of your masculinity. Whether it is building a business, getting in the best shape of your life, or restoring a classic car that comes first, any woman who enters your life must respect that mission. If she competes with it, she loses. Make that clear from day one. Second value, peace. More than companionship. A quiet home is worth far more than a loud relationship. If you are dating someone and they bring drama, chaos, or unresolved trauma into your life, cut it off. Immediately. Do not try to fix her. Do not try to save her. Choose your peace. It is better to eat dinner alone in silence than to eat a steak dinner while walking on eggshells. Third practice, rotational or casual dating. You do not need to merge lives. You do not need to cohabit. You do not need to get married again. You can enjoy the company of women without signing a contract. Be honest with them. Tell them, I am at a stage in my life where I value my freedom and my own space. I love our time together, but I'm not looking for cohabitation or marriage, and this takes courage. But paradoxically, this honesty often makes you more attractive. Women respect a man who knows what he wants and cannot be moved. Fourth, maintain strong emotional boundaries. Support, but do not absorb. Be present, but do not carry. When she dumps emotional chaos on you, listen, but visualize a wall. Do not let it enter your spirit. Do not let it ruin your day. If it becomes too much, step away. Fifth, protect your renaissance. This phase of life is rare. Don't let anyone, including yourself, weaken it. Use this time to become the version of yourself you always wanted to be. Many men over 50 don't realize how quickly their identity can shift when they enter a relationship without full awareness. At this stage of life, your sense of self is more refined than ever. You've lived through trials, losses, achievements, and quiet lessons that shaped a stronger, calmer version of you. But the moment you step into a dynamic where your boundaries soften, where your choices revolve around someone else's emotions, you risk drifting away from the man you've finally grown into. It doesn't happen suddenly. It begins with small adjustments that feel harmless. You skip your morning routine once, you avoid expressing your needs, you keep quiet to maintain peace. These little choices seem minor, but over time they stack into a pattern. You begin organizing your life around someone else's moods and expectations instead of your own priorities. At this age, the danger is greater because you have less emotional energy to waste. Younger men can bounce back from imbalance. Older men pay a deeper price. Stress affects their health more sharply. Emotional weight drains them faster, and losing freedom hits harder because it took decades to earn it. Modern Stoicism highlights something crucial. A man must know what is his responsibility and what is not. Most older men enter relationships with a good heart. They want to help, support, uplift, and be dependable. But without strong awareness, their natural empathy becomes a tunnel that leads directly into sacrifice. They stop growing, they stop exploring, they stop protecting their mental space. And ironically, the more they give up their identity, the less attractive and grounded they become. Women don't desire a man who loses himself. They desire a man who stays rooted, steady, and sure of his direction. This is why many relationships for men over 50 feel draining instead of fulfilling. They enter with hope, but they don't enter with boundaries. They enter with softness, but not structure. They enter wanting connection, but forget that connection cannot replace purpose. When a man reaches this age, the most powerful thing he can do is stay centered, not closed, not distant-centered, connected to purpose, connected to peace, connected to his identity. When he does that, the right woman, if he chooses to have one, doesn't drain him. She fits into his life naturally, she adds value. The wrong woman falls away on her own because she cannot pull a grounded man off his path. The deeper truth is this. For a man over 50, the biggest danger isn't being single. The biggest danger is giving away the peace he worked a lifetime to earn. Relationships aren't the enemy. Losing yourself is And unless a man enters a relationship with awareness, boundaries, purpose, and emotional clarity, he will repeat the same patterns that drained him in the past. The older a man gets, the more sacred his life becomes, the more intentional he must be, and the more valuable his time, energy, and peace are. This is why men who understand this shift into a new kind of strength, quiet, measured, deeply attractive, and completely free. In the end, a girlfriend is not the issue. The issue is entering a relationship blindly without understanding the cost. A stoic man over 50 understands this truth. Freedom is priceless. Peace is sacred. Purpose is everything. Protect them fiercely. If this message spoke to you, I want you to make a public declaration. Comment "I choose peace" below so I know you are part of the brotherhood that understands the value of this phase of life. And if you know a man who is about to make a mistake, share this video with him. You might just save his life. Subscribe for more unvarnished truth on Stoicism and masculinity. I'll see you in the next one.